It's the pre-party with J. Cal.
We are professional wrestling.
I'm building an alliance.
You are tuned into
the absolute top of the mountain, the ultimate professional wrestling.
Alliance-wrestling.com.
Welcome to the pre-party. Can you believe it, guys? I caught myself off guard here, but I'm just thinking about it. This is going to be the last pre-party that isn't going to be connected to an NWA programming. Just double checking that my mic is working. This will be the first this will be the first pre-party in a long time that isn't going to have NWA content following. That's incredible. It's finally here, guys. It's finally come full circle. Over 365 days plus without fresh NWA content, and now we're getting it. Now we're getting to the promised land, if you will. We're getting a return of the NWA with the... My mic sounds hollow. Well, I don't know really how to fix that right now. It sounds hollow. Hello? Hello? It sounds hollow. I don't know what I can do to fix that, Matt. Sorry, brother. Hope you guys could bear with me. You guys hear it too. It's hollow. Well, that's not good for me. All right, let's see what happens when I turn this on. That's not good for me. Well, I mean, sorry guys, I can't do anything about it right now. We'll just have to live with it. I apologize. But let's get back to it. This is the pre-party. This is a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your #1 source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is J-Cal. Woo! Oh, hey, check out this fly shirt right here. If you guys ever check out the merch store, we sell t-shirts, hats. I don't have the hat here. We do sell hats and coffee mugs and all kinds of fun stuff. Anyways, so sorry I'm a little discombobulated because we're talking about the NWA and we're talking about having a pay-per-view, which is something we haven't done in a NWA. Well, that's a mistake. And that's something we haven't had in a long time. So I'm super excited. I'm sure you guys are too. We have a card to go over. We have lots of stuff to talk about today. One thing I wanted to bring up, and this is kind of breaking format here. I don't normally do unboxings, but I decided to check out a Pro Wrestling Loot box. The Pro Wrestling Loot, it's actually... they've been around for a while, and it's a monthly subscription. You basically sign up for this box that's curated by Pro Wrestling Loot, and you get kind of cool stuff in there. And so I was just going to open this up and show it to you to see what I got in mind. And, well, here it is. I might send this over to my friend Kevin Frazier, but I got a Rock and Roll Express t-shirt. I mean, that's very fitting for the National Wrestling Alliance, right? But I'm not a big fan. Next in the box, what's in the box? Oh, there's a couple things. This looks pretty cool. It's the best of Sting in Japan from IVP videos. Maybe we'll do a watch along. That's pretty cool. For as much crap as I give AEW, I really do like Sting. He was one of my favorites growing up, and he's a multi-generational NWA World Champion, meaning he held that title back in the early 90s and held it again in 2000. That's pretty awesome. And, it came off the box, but this is pretty cool. This is the reason why I signed up for this box, was the Harley race. It's yellow, not green, but the green screen grabs it. It's a Harley race little wrestling buddy. The 8-time champion of the world and the greatest wrestler on God's green earth, Harley Race. Yeah, man, I think that's pretty cool. It actually came out of the box, but yeah, that's why I ordered it, because I really wanted that Harley Race figure. There are not a whole lot of Harley Race figures out there. And then the last thing, and I guess there's a couple of things. Oh, there's actually a few things here. I'm going to send this to somebody. It's an autographed photo of the Honky Tonk Man. That is awesome. He's cool. He's cocky. He's bad. He's the greatest Intercontinental Champion. And looks like I have a poster too. You can check out my eBay store for most of the stuff I'll be putting out there. Oh, this is pretty dope. I'm sending this to you, DKM. If you're on. Oh, see the... It's green, that's why the writing's not there. But it's an artist rendition of the Dallas Sportatorium. That's pretty cool. So yeah, that's the pro wrestling loot. A wrestling poster of the Sportatorium, a pint-size all-star figure, a wrestling t-shirt, and a signed 8x10. Again, that's prowrestlingloot.com. No, this isn't a free endorsement. No, they didn't pay me for this. Or, it is a free endorsement. No, they didn't pay me to do this. But I think that's pretty cool. And, if this is something that perks your interest, go to prowrestlingloot.com. I don't have a discount code or anything like that. I just thought it was pretty cool. That pick is worth its weight in gold. That's fantastic. Yeah, so I mean, again, Lamb, that might not work out so well for you being in Germany, but I think for most of the audience here in the United States, if you're looking to get some cool wrestling collectibles, a fun note about this Harley Race action figure is that it was actually drawn by Scott Lost. And if you guys don't remember Scott Lost, or if maybe the name sounds familiar, Scott Lost was a tag team partner of the pre-Dick Flip Joey Ryan as the X Foundation. And in fact, if you watch early pro wrestling guerrilla matches, early championship wrestling from Hollywood, you'll see Scott Lost very much a part of that show. In fact, he once challenged Blue Demon Jr. for the NWA Worlds Heavyweight Championship. How about that for some history? We always tie it back to the NWA. That's what we're here for. And again, if you want to... That's right, Lamb. He is cool. He is cocky. He is bad. He is the Honky Tonk Man. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool. And, again, if you guys want to sign up for that, you just check out prowrestlingloot.com. And what's that? Oh, I don't know if you guys see that. Somebody just bought an Alliance Wrestling 2020 logo t-shirt. Of course, as soon as I set that up, I'm starting to get notifications. If you guys... Avocado sucks? I don't like that. If you guys go to the merch store, you can check that out at alliance-wrestling.com. Just hit the merch link, and it'll take you to our Streamlabs store. And, yeah, that's pretty cool. Thank you, Dr. Lawrence Zirconium, for picking up that t-shirt. Again, that's this is the 2018 logo, but the 2020 logo is the one that you see more prominently on our social media accounts. Yeah, Lamb, apparently he's not a very good, Dr. Zirconium isn't a fan of avocados. He must know that I love avocados. And then Matt says, how's Nick Aldus doing and how's Mickey? I mean, I guess they're doing well. I don't know if you guys heard about it, but, it's actually a good segue because, I don't know if you guys know... You guys know about This Is Pro Wrestling podcast. You know our friends over there. Well, some of us report the news. I report the news. Some people make the news. And our friends over at This Is Pro Wrestling podcast have been very active, especially Dr. Robert Stinson in the state of Georgia, where they officially got October 21st recognized as the National Wrestling Alliance Day. And I think that's so cool, number one, that somebody like Dr. Robert Stinson was able to get, in front of the right people, in front of the right politicians, if you will, and they're actually recognizing the NWA as a holiday. Now, I'm sure that they're not closing banks or anything, but I still think it's pretty cool, especially considering that the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studios were the home for the National Wrestling Alliance in 2019 and in the early part of 2020. So I think it's pretty dope that, as you can see with the picture, there's Dr. Robert Stinson, there's Gary Horn, there's Nick Aldus, and of course, I don't know that politician's name. I'm not following it that closely. And you can see it's Will Martin as well. So I think it's pretty cool that that they're recognizing the NWA as a holiday in Georgia. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. So how's Nick Aldus doing? Apparently he's doing well because he's hanging out there with This is Pro Wrestling podcast. So I think that's pretty cool. But more importantly, you know, guys, we have a lot of cool things coming in the coming days. Of course, we are 1 week away. 1 week away from NWA Power on Fight TV. Now, they still haven't even given us any sorry, I'm just reading some of your guys' comments. Woodland Goblin says Nick is doing great and his bank account is awesome. He's sure. I do want to just say what's up to everyone joining us again. I see there's you guys are so great in making this a part of your weekly content consumption. So again, I want to say thank you to Willie Bowen for being here, Terry McDermott, Jimmy, of course, Lamb, and we have Woodland Goblin of Wrestling with MMA. Thank you guys for being here. And those of you who are just watching, again, I do appreciate you guys being here, being a part of this weekly podcast. Again, next week, this show will be here to hype you up for that show. Sorry. We're going to hype you up for NWA Power. Now, the cool thing about and Dave Scooby's here too. Yeah, absolutely. And Matt Vermillion, yes, all you guys, thanks again for being here. So yeah, we're going to get NWA Power, and we still don't really know much of how the show is going to be laid out or who is going to be on the roster. Now, one could assume from the pay-per-view roster that we're going to see a lot of familiar faces from that pay-per-view. Of course, we're going to run down the pay-per-view in just a minute, but the question is, we still don't even know how much it's actually going to be charged. That announcement hasn't been made official. Now, we've heard low cost. We've also heard the assumption is it's going to be $4.99 a month. But again, we still don't have an exact number of what this weekly subscription is going to cost. And I'm really I'm kind of curious as to what it's going to be and how the show's going to look. Remember, there's going to be a lot of creative. That's what I'm looking for. There's going to be a difference in the creative. Remember, when this show initially aired, it was the efforts of Billy Corgan, David Lagana, Josephus, and a lot of people we're familiar with. But now this year we're going to have some of those guys are gone. Josephus recently passed away. David Lagana is no longer associated with the promotion. Dave Marquez is no longer a part of the program. I don't know who else is going to be involved with the production of the show. We know Billy Trask is still directing, and that's cool, but the look and feel of the show is going to be much, much different. I think they'll try to keep the look as close to the original Power as they can, but I think we're still going to have a different look for the NWA, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. There were certainly things they could have improved upon in the past. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out, how it comes together. And Lamb says Will looks like a cop. That's funny. Lamb, you're on it today, brother. You're on it. So that's pretty exciting. And personally, I can't wait to see what's going to happen. But first, before we get to Power, we have to get to Back for the Attack. Now, I'll be the first one to admit that initially this card was lacking for me. In fact, I was pretty disappointed, to be honest. We started listing some of the names who were going to be back on the show. They started making the announcements. So we got Jordan Clearwater and Slice Boogie and Crimson. They recently released the name Jack Stain is going to be on it. Of course, he's part of the four-way that you see here. But then we also have Tyrus, and we also have Chris Adonis, who formerly used to be known as Chris Masters. And I wasn't really excited about the pay-per-view. leading up to it. But there are some matches here that I think are going to be really, really good, and I think they're going to be worth watching. And, I mean, this 4-way, I'll be honest, this is a disposable match for me. This doesn't do anything for me. I would rather see a tag team match. I would rather see Crimson and Jack Stane taking on, somebody else. Somebody else. The NWA has a tag team titles, has a tag team division that's currently, there seems to be only one tag team on the roster. And if you're putting a match together with 2 tag team partners taking on 2 other people, I kind of feel like maybe there's not much of a tag team division at all. If the idea is that Jack Stane and Crimson are going to grow back into the War Kings, because remember, the War Kings were at the 70th anniversary pay-per-view. Excuse me. They weren't at the 70th anniversary. They were at the Crockett Cup. They were also at the New Year's Bash in 2019. The 2 pay-per-views leading up to Power, they were on both of those cards. So it would lead me to believe that, at some point you would have them featured on television. We knew Crimson was hurt, so he was unable to compete on television. They used Jack Stane in a role where he and Tim Storm were feuding. And I thought that was a great play to the old storyline of what they had in the past. But still, I want to see Jack Stane and I want to see Crimson as a tag team. I want to see the War Kings. I mean, they tag team everywhere else they wrestled. SWE Fury, Tried and True Pro Wrestling, even Ohio Valley, they've competed as a tag team. So I feel like this might be a missed opportunity, but it's going to give you an opportunity to see what Slice Boogie and Jordan Clearwater can do against 2 legitimate heavyweights, 2 big dudes. So we'll see how that goes. Again, I'm not over the moon with it, but it could be worse. And then next up we have sorry, I'm getting a little distracted here. The TV title match. Now this is a good booking. I think this is a good story. I think this is a good way to reintroduce the NWA to the television title, because Thomas Latimer is no joke. We saw the match that he had with Trevor Murdoch. We saw the match that he had with, he was mostly known as Royce Isaac's tag team partner. But what better way to introduce him to the singles division by putting him in a match with the Pope? Now, the television title is going to be on the line. It is the 3rd title match of 3 on this card. And again, I think Elijah Burke is due for a huge push. I mean, I could be mistaken. I don't really have any booking notes. I don't know what for sure is going to happen. But I think Elijah Burke did a great job of putting the NWA over when he took the belt off of Zicky Dice. We know he's a great promo man. So it'll be interesting to see him come to the NWA. Not come to the NWA, come back to the NWA with that TV title. No telling if he's going to have the red strap or the black strap. No telling which title he'll have. As a side note, if you guys didn't know, neither title was the NWA's. Both belts were on loan from other people. So maybe the NWA will actually have a TV title this time. And Traducus warns us that the referee better check the Pope's gloves, because he's saying they were loaded, and that's how he beat Zicky Dice. I'm not too sure about that. But, I mean, this, again, is going to be a fun match, and I think this is going to be a good way for the television title to be reintroduced to the NWA audience. And, of course, then the next match I think that's really interesting, I think is really going to get people talking, is Thunder Rosa versus Camille. Thunder Rosa versus Camille has a lot of potential. Now, I think that a lot of people tend to forget how good Thunder Rosa is if they've only been watching AEW. I mean, she's great on AEW, but she was revolutionary for the National Wrestling Alliance. I mean, she came into a division that seemed fairly weak and just kind of owned it almost immediately. Now the NWA is starting over. I don't know which female wrestlers are even under contract or committed to working with the NWA, but there's none better than Thunder Rosa. And with that being said, Camille is a superstar in the making. I mean, we're watching the rise of a superstar right now. And I know you're going to say, Jay, pump your brakes. She's a little green behind the ears. And that might be true. But the way that she was being built up by the National Wrestling Alliance, the way the creative was handling her, she was a threat. She was a threat with only 2 matches under her belt for the NWA. And a lot of people thought she would be taking the belt off of Thunder Rosa long before AEW became involved. So Camille versus Thunder Rosa, I think, is going to be... It's going to be an interesting match. And it'll tell you a lot about the women's division by which way they go. Because the rumor is that, we know for a fact, Billy Corgan said as much, that the NWA has Thunder Rosa under contract until 2021, throughout the entire year. But at the end of the year, who knows? So it wouldn't make a lot of sense for Thunder Rosa to have a very lengthy reign as champion if she's only going to walk away at the end of the year. So it's going to be interesting because I don't think that Camille is ready yet to carry the division, but that doesn't mean a feud with her and Thunder Rosa couldn't do a whole lot to rebuild the NWA's women division. Again, this is a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com. If you guys want to check out what else we're doing, we're also on TikTok, Tumblr, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at the Alliance blog. And of course, all the news articles that you hear me talking about, we post at alliance-wrestling.com. You could check that out for your news and for your information. You definitely want to be a part of that. I really feel like if you're not visiting the website, you're missing out. Plus, we recently opened up a Discord channel, and we'll put a link at the end of the video to that. Woodland Goblin says that he's rooting for Camille, that he's all Thunder Rosa'd out. That sounds very interesting. I don't ever want to be Thunder Rosa'd out. Dave Scooby says, have Thunder Rosa win the match and then go on after the belt, win back the Burke, and hold it until a contract is done, have Camille demand a rematch, and a loser leaves the NWA. Scooby, I mean, I've said it before. I think you and I share the same brain because that's kind of my thoughts as well. I mean, if Thunder Rosa is going to be done at the end of 2021, there's so much she could do as champion and as chief rival of whoever the champion's going to be to help really solidify the NWA's women division. And there's an opportunity for her to do so much in such a short amount of time to kind of reinvigorate it. Now, let's be honest, we don't know who the NWA women's division is. We know Serena Deeb is champion, but she's under contract to AEW. We know Thunder Rosa is under contract till 2021, and we know Camille's around. But we don't know, outside of those 3 females, who's a part of this division, who's a part of the roster, and who they may or may not bring in. Now, with that being said, there's rumor that Melina's still hanging around, and Melina would be fine, but again, she's not the workhorse you'd want your champion to be. She's got name value, she's got name recognition, but she's not Thunder Rosa, and she's not someone who is super exciting in the ring. Now, with that being said, Thunder Rosa's Mission Pro Wrestling, a lot of her talents that are associated with Mission Pro are getting looks in AEW, and there's a good chance that there's enough opportunity with the NWA that maybe Mission Pro can send some of its talent to the NWA as well. We'll see how that goes. Lamb says that Rosa winning the title back would mean more title defenses on Mission Pro Wrestling, and that wouldn't be bad. No, absolutely. And I really do believe... I mean, look, we knew Serena Deeb wasn't going to be at this card. She wouldn't be competing. She just went through arthroscopic knee surgery, so we knew she wasn't going to be into the ring. At least I knew she wasn't going to be. But it'd be cool if she was there to kind of just, scout the competition. Now, she's been in the ring enough with Thunder Rosa to know who Thunder Rosa is all about. She's never stepped in the ring with Camille. She's never even looked at Camille. So this would be very interesting storyline if Camille were to win and we're able to look at, just that confrontation. It makes for good storytelling. But again, we don't really know for sure what's going to happen. That's for Jimmy and the LB. He knows what it is. Next up, and I don't have graphic cards for these, so we'll just go back to this shot right here. Next up, we have JR Kratos taking on Tyrus. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This match sounds like this is the bathroom break. This is the match I have absolutely no interest in whatsoever. Tyrus, yes, he's 6'7". He's 375 pounds. He's 48 years old. He spent the last 12 years between the WWE and Impact. He's wrestled in AAA. He's been on Fox News. He's had his own show on Fox News. It's been alleged that he sexually harassed a Fox News employee, but I guess none of this has actually been confirmed or denied. But I just don't like the matchup. I don't. Number one, JR Kratos is your tag team champion, and if I'm booking, you want him to look strong. You want your tag team champion to look strong, and he's going to be going into the ring against a guy who's literally taller, bigger, and I was kind of worried. And now, Lamb, I see that you said Tyrus versus Kratos is official. Since when? I got that from the Fight TV website. If you go to the Fight TV website, they have a match listing for everyone. And like I said, as we're going through the matches here, if you order now, you get a $2 credit. Yeah, that match is... yeah, there it is. NWA World Tag Team Champion Kratos takes on Tyrus. So, again, that's one of the matches on the card that, again, I have no interest in this match whatsoever. I'm not a big fan of Tyrus. I mean, I see on the surface why he's appealing to the NWA. He's a big dude. He's kind of got his own redemption storyline and his own arc there. Now, hopefully I can be proven wrong. Hopefully I can be wrong about this, and hopefully they put on a stellar match. I'm just not going to hold my breath for it. I think the style clash doesn't make a lot of sense. And, yes, Lamb, Murdoch versus Adonis for the national title. Yep. And that's the other thing that we're going to talk about. Now, that's a match that, I don't have a graphic for either, but I'm super excited about. Because although they've probably squared off a handful of times on Raw and SmackDown and Metal and Jacked and Heat and all those other WWE programs from about 12 years ago, there's something to be said about Trevor Murdoch and his work ethic right now. Trevor Murdoch has been established by the NWA as the Hoss. He's the head Hoss. I mean, he outlasted Tom Latimer. He won that national title. He's defended that national title exactly one time for Southwest Wrestling Entertainment against Jeremy White. That was a good victory for him. Now this will be another good challenge. Someone who's very powerful, someone who's very strong, and kind of polar opposites in terms of body image, right? But what Trevor Murdoch is good at is fighting. He's not afraid to square it up. He's not afraid to get his hands messy. And we've seen his matches where he's not afraid to, to really get in there and ruffle some feathers, if you will. Chris Adonis, formerly known as Chris Masters, I mean, the last time we saw him on a national stage was with Impact Wrestling. And even though not a lot of us are familiar with Qatar Pro Wrestling, he and the man Carlitos are still tag team champions. So it's not like he's just been sitting in a hole somewhere. He's been working too and honing in on his craft. And of course, when he got signed by the NWA, a lot of people celebrated that, and rightfully so. He's a good talent and really checks every single box that Nick Aldus and Billy Corgan spoke about with talent for the NWA. They were looking for guys who had been given an opportunity in the past that for whatever reason weren't able to capitalize on it. And somebody like, Chris Adonis, who's got a great look. His promo skills are okay. I wouldn't say he's great. I wouldn't say he's on top of my list as the best promo guys in the business. But I think he's certainly a guy that can bring something different to the roster. And again, putting him in a match against Trevor Murdoch, I think, is going to be a good test for both men. Back to some of your comments. Triduca says, Tyrus isn't that strong of an opponent. Granted, Tyrus has the look, but he wasn't booked strong in Impact or WWE. And then Sean Mega says, the 4-way should be a tag match. Absolutely, Sean, I agree with that. Trevor Murdoch is probably the guy with the best chance to dethrone Aldus. I mean, that's not a bad look either. Dave Scooby says he would rather have seen Murdoch versus Latimer and Pope versus Adonis. You know what? I think I would have too, Scooby. I think because of that rematch that Latimer and not a rematch, but the match that Latimer and Murdoch had in the TV title tournament that went so balls to the walls, and it was very aggressive, and it was fun. It was a real fun Haas fight. So I think you're onto something, and maybe that's something that will materialize down the road. But until that happens, this is what we get. Pope, I think Pope versus Latimer is still going to be a lot of fun. But like you, Scooby, I would have preferred Trevor and the Pope. Willie Bowen says Davey Boy Smith Jr. should be on this roster. I agree. I mean, I've heard rumors that he's getting ready to sign either with AEW or the WWE. I guess he's mulling over his options. I think in the meantime, just this one-off pay-per-view would have been pretty fun, especially if he could have been the guy to challenge Nick Aldus. But there's a lot of things in motion. There's a lot of things we don't know about. And, I really feel like they've tried to put the best card together that they could. And again, in the main event, they're paying homage to Joseph Hudson, a.k.a. Josephus, also known as the question mark. Matt Vermillion says Chris Hero showing up would have been nice. It still could happen. I mean, you guys have to understand it's a pay-per-view, and what do a lot of pay-per-views like to do? They like to give you surprises. They like to show things that give you things that you weren't expecting. Whoever's here who's going to watch it live on Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific. I mean, you're going to have an opportunity to see the NWA in action for the first time in over a year, and we're paying a premium for that. I think the NWA would do everything it can to make sure that you're hooked off of this first offering, and they want you to subscribe to the subscription service to watch Power every Tuesday, right after this show. And then, of course, I think they would want you to be back for the next pay-per-view. So it would be in the NWA's best interest to give you a great card, and I really think that this card is going, it has some challenges, but, a good match could cover up some of those challenges. Dave Scooby says, what about Doug Williams' return to challenge Aldus? Now, that would be great, and I think that's still something that could happen, but, there's been no sign yet that it's going to, and besides, I still think there's travel restrictions preventing folks from the UK flying to the United States and vice versa. We're still in the middle of COVID, and even though they're going back and having these wrestling matches, there are still restrictions with travel. There's still self-quarantine for 14 days when you do travel. So it'll be interesting at what and how it happens. But yeah, I think bringing Doug Williams into the fold, either as an ally or an opponent for Nick Aldus, would be pretty awesome. In fact, Strictly Business could take a more European look if they brought in, Doug Williams and just had that, the UK type stable with Thomas Latimer, Nick Aldus, and Doug Williams. I think that'd be very, very fun. Mance Warner is a free agent according to Sean Mega. Everyone's a free agent, right? In most of these wrestling promotions, even though you're signed, you're still allowed to compete elsewhere. The guys that are working for AEW, they're still allowed to compete elsewhere. I think Brian Cage is doing a pay-per-view match somewhere with Michael Elgin somewhere. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I'm not entirely sure, but it's exciting. That's the thing with all the free agents that are available, with all these contracts where people can work elsewhere. That's the cool thing about this whole dichotomy in wrestling right now. You've got wrestling promotions now more than ever willing to work with each other. Specifically AEW is working with Impact. AEW has a relationship with the NWA. Who's to say that we wouldn't see someone from AEW on this roster? Or who's to say if we have a Crockett Cup that maybe the Tony Khan might be willing to let FTR be a part of that? It's just so much that's going on. So much could happen. We'll see how it goes. Trideca says, any word on who's doing color commentary yet? No, there hasn't been an official announcement, and I don't think we're going to get one. I just think it's either going to be Joe Galley flying solo, or whoever or maybe Joe Galley and Kyle Davis. I know that Kyle Davis is going to be taking over for David Marquez at the interview spot. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know for sure who's going to be taking over color commentary, but like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they just fly Joe Galli out there solo. Woodland Goblin, yeah, we have been talking about Thursday nights. We just haven't had a whole lot to talk about, but now with the NWA returning, I think we're going to get back to it. I mean, in some form or fashion, at least myself, and we'll be back on Thursday nights. Hopefully, both DK and Kevin Frazier, maybe even Jaden might join us as well. Lamb says, depends. Jordan Devlin from Ireland travels to NXT. Grizzled young veterans too, but maybe because WWE has good contracts with the government. You know, Lamb, I think the it's not the problem flying from Ireland to the UK and vice versa. I think it's literally flying to the US. Now, we got hit pretty hard with COVID, and I don't want to make this a political podcast or anything like that, but as a country, we had a lot of struggles trying to prevent the spread of the disease. And I know that I was supposed to go to Scotland last year in October, and I was going to check out some SXT, which is formerly of Scotland Next Wrestling, is what I don't know if you guys know this, but before there was an NXT, there was Scotland's had a wrestling promotion called NXT, and it was like almost the same idea as a developmental for the Scottish Wrestling Alliance. And I was looking forward to actually checking out one of their shows when I went over to Scotland, but because of COVID and all the travel restrictions, we couldn't get there. We just couldn't get there because they weren't taking non-emergency travel, I guess. So, they closed the border. We couldn't get there. I don't think that border's been opened up to the United States yet. Now, they're starting to open things up all over, especially in California. Like, we're finally getting movie theaters reopened. Restaurants are able to have dining indoors again. So, the way COVID is starting to, we're getting more vaccines distributed. So, wrestling in this state might be returning. I know that there's matches planned in in the city down the street. They're doing wrestling in May, so we'll see how it goes. Of course, we've been on such lockdown that we're starting to see that light at the end of the tunnel, but that doesn't mean anything. They could lock everything down just the same if COVID rates start going up. So yeah, Traducka says he'd like Joel and Kyle. Joel? You mean Joe? Joe and Kyle. Yeah. I think that would be a good commentary. Dodie says, Hey, Dodie. It's good to see you, man. I haven't seen you in a while. Glad you're here, brother. Like Gordon Soley, Lance Russell. Yeah, I mean, they might do that. So yeah, I that would be pretty cool. Personally, I like having a good color commentator, but I don't know who's available out there. My dream choice would have been Raven, because I think Raven, at least in terms of color, could absolutely help articulate the story that's happening in the ring, as well as his presence. You got to remember, he's a former NWA World Champion. He held titles for the NWA in Portland. His connection to WCW, his connection to ECW, his connection to Impact. I mean, there's not a whole lot of guys that have the repertoire that Raven has had. So I think putting him in that broadcast booth would be money. I just don't know if that's what the plan is for the NWA. And especially when he had said that he thought Billy Corgan was folding it. I know a lot of people were insulted by that, and perhaps Billy was too. So you never know. Traducka says if they only had the money to bring in Jesse Ventura, that would be pretty interesting. I don't know if Jesse would even be interested in doing that, but could you imagine? I mean, we'd be talking about a wrestling union as well. Not a reunion, a union. And Dave Scooby says, don't forget to it. Oh, yes, it is. It's referee Jared Fritz's birthday. Yeah, absolutely. Jared Fritz, he's a fellow PMA believer, a very positive mental attitude with Jared Fritz. If you guys, if you're on Twitter, wish him a happy birthday. He's a good guy. I like him a lot. But then getting back to some of the, I guess the main event. And this is a main event that honestly, it took a minute for it to grow on me. because I wasn't sure how I felt about it. I wasn't sure how I felt about Aaron Stevens and Nick Aldus. Now, I get for the sake of the pay-per-view that they're doing this homage to Josephus, and that, you know, Aaron Stevens has called Josephus, the question mark, his sensei. It's a pretty big deal. And I think for Aaron Stevens, you know, we like to think of him as this kind of a gag, a walking joke almost. And like, you know, I know he does this intentionally, but he's there to be the butt of the joke. You know, when he pulled down his jeans and he's wearing flesh-colored wrestling tights with pink knee pads, we knew he was going for the joke. When he started wearing the karate gi and the third degree Mongrovian championship, I mean, we knew that was all tongue-in-cheek and it was comedy. But you can't forget that this guy was trained by Killer Kowalski. This guy is not just a joke. He's a legit wrestler. I mean, he's good. He's a good wrestler. And when you see him in the right match, he can be very aggressive. He can be very deadly. And if we look back at some of his past experiences, the matches he had with Trevor Murdoch at the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studio, those cross faces across the nose that he kept hitting over and over repeatedly, I mean, it looked bad. It looked rough. And I'm thinking he's going to bring a level of violence in this match that we haven't seen in a while. He already said that he's taking this seriously. If you guys saw him on Instagram Live, he made it perfectly clear that this match was very serious. He said he's not going to be doing the karate gimmick anymore, mostly because it doesn't make sense in a world without Josephus, without the question mark. But more so than that, they're giving him this opportunity to challenge for the World's Heavyweight Championship. It's an opportunity he might not have gotten otherwise. Now, this show is being dedicated to the memory of Josephus, and I don't know a better way to honor the memory of Josephus than to usurp the World Heavyweight Champion, to put that belt on Aaron Stevens. Now, I know I'm talking crazy. I know conspiracy theorists all around the world are saying, Jay, what are you talking about? We're almost in 900 days of Nick Aldus being World's Heavyweight Champion. Why would he lose the title to a guy like Aaron Stevens? And I'm telling you right now, there's no better person than Aaron Stevens to take that title from Nick Aldus right now. Right now. So again, I'm hoping that you're going to order this pay-per-view on Sunday, 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. I hope that you're going to get your popcorn and your sodas ready, and I hope that you're going to be shocked by the level of good quality content coming from the NWA. But more so than that, I hope each and every one of you are shocked when my man Aaron Stevens becomes the next NWA Worlds Heavyweight Champion. Yeah, Aaron Stevens. I know, you guys. I know. But you can't judge a book by its cover. You can't judge a man just based on the actions of a 9-month period. This is a guy that challenged Mike DiBiase for the North American Championship at the NWA 60th anniversary show unsuccessfully. But since then, every title match he's had, he's won the belt. Prove me wrong. He won the national championship by defeating Colt Cabana and Ricky Starks. He won the tag titles by defeating Eli Drake and James Storm, with a relative unknown in JR Kratos. He is your reigning tag team champion. He has the pedigree, guys. I'm telling you, if the NWA wants to shock some people, that's going to happen. Willie Bowen says that he thinks Scott Hudson would be a perfect choice for color commentating. Scott Hudson was always more of a play-by-play guy, but I think he would be good too. Sean, if you're asking if I will do a pre-show, maybe. Stay tuned to my social media, the Alliance Blog social media accounts. Maybe we will do a pre-show. That might be fun. Aaron Stevens is a big tough guy. You're right, DKM. DKM, I'm going to send you a gift. Where'd I put it? DKM, I have something for you. I'll get it later, I guess. Sean Mega says Aaron Stevens was the most over person reaction-wise. I mean, something that we talked about on our podcast, the Alliance Guys podcast, that was on Thursday nights pretty routinely, was how committed to the heel character Aaron Stevens was. And how there was nobody more solidified in their role than Aaron Stevens, because you get a promo with Nick Aldus and you weren't sure if he was babyface or heel. You'd get a promo from Eli Drake, again, you're not really sure if he was a heel or a babyface. You'd get a promo from James Storm, and you're never really sure where he was on the roster, but you never made a mistake that you knew you were supposed to boo this man. Boo this man. You were supposed to boo Aaron Stevens. And he kept that role. He kept that role even when he was partnered with a babyface. Even when he was partnered with the Question Mark, who would continue to get over no matter what. Where did I put that thing? Oh well. Merch link in bio. Alright, sorry guys. So we're running out of time here. We've been talking for a minute. Let's read more of your comments because, of course, I love you guys. You make my week so much better every week. You make this show fun to do. I just wish I could find that poster I wanted to show DKM live. I'll show him later. But more of your comments. Aaron Stevens could become a modern-day Grand Slam champion in the NWA if he continues to win the titles in his first attempt. You're right, Lamb. And I mean, look, the only other guy in the NWA who's held every title currently is Jack Stane. And I mean, you're in some solid company if you can compare your career to Jack Stane in the National Wrestling Alliance. People seem to forget he was a tag team champion with the Iron Man Rob Conway, defending that title in New Japan Pro Wrestling against tag teams like, oh God, what was their name? Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Lance Hoyt, Lance Archer. They had a cool name, I can't remember. They defended the titles against Gallows and Anderson. I mean, they defended the titles against Kojima and Tenzin. Koji. So yeah, I mean, that's a Killer Elite Squad. Thank you, Lamb. So I mean, they fought some really stiff competition. You can't sleep on how good Conway and Jack Stane were. And I mean, they were managed by Bruce Tharp of all people, so give them some credit. And then going further, Jack Stane, I mean, at one point he literally unified the North American and National Championship, something that hasn't been done. And because the title doesn't exist anymore, can't be done ever again. But it was, he beat Tim Storm to do that. And he had both the North American and National Championships. Again, he took the title off of Tenzin to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Jack Stane is a good dude. I mean, real good dude. But you really have to celebrate the man's career. I mean, he's been pretty dominant in the National Wrestling Alliance. That's for sure. I'm still looking for that poster. Where'd it go? Okay, I give up. More of your comments. Woodland Goblin says, yeah, on Sunday night, and this is Pro Wrestling Podcast, that this may be very similar to when Flair dropped the world belt to Kerry Von Erich after the death of David. And again, look, I don't think anyone wants to have sympathy title swaps. I don't think this is I want it to be a feel-good story for the right reasons. And let's be honest, Aaron Stevens is qualified. A lot like Kerry Von Erich was. I mean, you're not giving a title to a slob, if that were the case. It's not like you're swapping titles on somebody who doesn't deserve it or who couldn't hold that championship with prestige and with honor. And let's face it, Aaron Stevens, I think it's highly underrated, his NWA run. And we're talking about a man who's currently a tag team champion, who is the national champion. And again, if COVID-19 would have kept its ugly face out of this existence, we would have had a lot more NWA content last year. Who knows what direction the National Wrestling Alliance, the relationship with Aaron Stevens and the Question Mark, and who knows, we might be talking about a multi-time tag team champion. We might be talking about an Aaron Stevens who held both the tag titles and the national title We don't really know. We never really were afforded the opportunity to see that. Matt Vermillion says, I would have had Aldous Stevens last a while. Get fans watching. And they might. I mean, look, this is the introduction to the NWA. This is the reintroduction to the NWA. This happens every couple of years. This one was caused by a global pandemic. So we're gonna get the World's Heavyweight Champion defending against the NWA Tag Team Champion. We're going to have Nick Aldus versus Aaron Stevens. But this is an opportunity to tell a different story with Aaron Stevens. This is an opportunity to tell a different story with Nick Aldus. You know, what was is done. I mean, strictly business. There's no more Royce Isaacs. I don't know if they're going to continue with that storyline. And as far as Aaron Stevens goes, now there's no more question mark. He's not going to be the karate guy anymore. I mean, if he shows up in the gi, that's one thing, but he's not going to be the Mongrovian student of the question mark anymore. That's ran its course. It's done. So we're going to see something different from Aaron Stevens. We're going to see something different from Nick Aldus. And, you know, and I would hate to think that they would go back to such tropes as having, you know, Latimer run out and save Aldus, or Camille run out and save Aldus, or something like that. But that very well could happen. It could. Willie Bowen says, if Aaron Stevens wins the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, how will this affect his status as co-holder of NWA Tag Team Champion? Well, okay, so if we're doing a little bit of fantasy booking here, and I've never been afraid to do that, if we're doing a little bit of fantasy booking, this would be a perfect time to take the tag titles and say, okay, the winner of the Crockett Cup 2021 wins the tag titles, and JR Kratos could go find himself another tag team partner, or, you know, maybe Kratos just sets the focus on the NWA television title or the national title. I mean, there's a lot of different ways it can go. To me, I think with the fact that you don't have a very strong tag team division anyways, I wouldn't mind if the titles went, you know, back on the back burner for a little bit. I mean, who's challenging for them? There's no set tag team as of right now except for Stevens and Kratos. You know, I don't know if the Rock and Roll Express are going to return. I mean, it could happen. I don't know. You know, we know that Latimer in the past is teamed with Aldus, but again, we don't know if that's going to be the situation here. And again, so there's no real set tag teams, so I don't know if you really need to have a set tag team division, tag team titles. Traducus agrees that Jack Stain is badass. I told you, Dodie and Lamb both corrected me with the Killer Elite Squad. You guys are great, by the way. Lamb's in Germany, Dodie's in Indonesia, and you guys are here checking us out. I have no idea what time it is on your part of the world, but thank you for being here. It means a lot to me. Woodland Goblin says, right, Aaron Stevens says he will not be in character. He will be himself. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if you're on the Discord, the Alliance Blog Discord server, I posted the video from, don't tell anybody, but I recorded the Aaron Stevens Instagram live and put it up on the Discord server so that you guys can check it out, because he's not taking this match lightly. This is very much going to be Aaron Stevens in the Raw. It's not going to be a silly gimmick. He's not going to be out there goofing around. He's literally going to be out there, and I think that's incredible. I think we're finally going to get to see the real Aaron Stevens. Not Damian Sandow, not Ms. Dow, but we're going to see Aaron Stevens, and that's a character that you haven't seen in a very long time. So I'm excited to see it, and I think he's going to do something. I think he's going to do something that, at the very least, I think he's not going to go down without a fight. Trideca says Kerry was qualified and he would have held the title longer if it weren't for his personal demons. I agree. I mean, we could spend a whole other episode talking about Kerry Von Erich and the Von Erich family. Kerry by far was the most charismatic. I mean, he had the best look of all of them, and I think had he not had his drug abuse problems, that he would be a star even today. I mean, we talk about. I think if he stayed healthy, we would talk about him the same way we talk about Bret Hart, same way we talk about Kurt Hennig, same way we talk about Hulk Hogan. I think he'd be a legend. Unfortunately, his demons were too powerful for him, and that's why we don't. It's 11 p.m. in Germany, It's 5 a.m. in Indonesia. You guys are the best. Thank you for checking it out. And that goes for everyone. You guys are all great for watching this show. I'm very humbled when I see how many views are watching this podcast and how many people are watching it all at the same time. I'm very humbled when Don Man purchases a sweater and a t-shirt and 2 t-shirts, or Dr. Lawrence Zirconium buys a t-shirt. You guys don't understand how humbling that is. I never take for granted that you guys appreciate what I do. You guys enjoy my content. That means the absolute world to me. Every time you guys support this podcast by watching it or interacting with us on social media, joining the forums or the Discord or whatever it is, that's truly humbling. And I think that I don't know if I could really convey how meaningful that is to me and how much that impacts my life. This started off as a hobby, and then this started off as I almost said chore. It is a chore sometimes, but it was a dream to kind of help connect fans to the National Wrestling Alliance. When we started this back in 2008, the podcast, like, there was nobody else talking about the NWA. There wasn't 3 or 4 different shows talking about the NWA. It was me. That's why I did it. So when you guys spend 30 minutes or an hour interacting with us on this podcast or listening to us on the Apple iTunes or Amazon or on Spotify, it truly is humbling. I'm very grateful for it. And I don't take it for granted at all. So when you guys come to the alliance-wrestling.com, just realize you're supporting the website, somebody who genuinely appreciates your support. And I saw someone post something about Blog Talk Radio. Willie Bowen says the Wolf's Daddies would be great addition to NWA Power. They would be. Now, remember, guys, a week from right now, we're going to be turning to Fight TV to watch NWA Power. How great is that? I might have to start the show earlier because we keep going over and over, but it's fun talking to you guys, and I don't like stopping. So we're going to go a little bit longer if you guys are cool with that. Matt Vermillion says, I still feel David Von Erich could have been the king of the AWA. He had a look Margani loved. Yeah, it's sad. And who knows, like, there's a butterfly effect. There's a domino effect there. Had David, like, survived and went to the AWA and they were able to capitalize on his popularity and the success and the whole support from Texas and the growing that, the AWA fan base, we might be talking about the AWA in the same way we talk about the NWA. Hell, we might not even be talking about the WWE if the AWA found a way to be competitive and successful back then. Will the Goblin, thanks, man. I hope you appreciate it. Sean says that he thought David had more charisma. I mean, I guess so, man. I don't disagree. Well, actually, no, I do disagree because I was a big Kerry Von Erich fan. I loved Kerry Von Erich. I caught him in the tail end of World Class, and then I saw him show up in the WWE as the Texas Tornado. So for me, I really enjoyed Kerry. I didn't, I was too young for his run as world champion, but I thought he was awesome. And I thought the modern day hero, the modern day warrior, was such an impressive athlete. And those matches with Kurt Hennig in the WWF at the time for the Intercontinental title, which at the time was the work rate title, was just so much fun. And, of course, he had his demons, and that feud, he got replaced with Bret Hart, and the rest is history. And Sean Mega says Blog Talk Radio. Yeah, Blog Talk Radio is where it all started for the podcast. And if you guys listen to episode 1, I'm so sorry. Dave Scooby says, if Stevens can keep up with Aldous and give him a good run, his stock will rise. He still has unfinished business with Murdoch for the national title. I mean, look, the world is literally Aaron Stevens' oyster. And depending on what happens at this pay-per-view, I don't think it's indicative of his future. I think Billy Corgan's high on him. I think Nick Aldus is high on him. We'll see how this goes. We'll see how it all goes. But I really do believe that Aaron Stevens is a lot of untapped potential. And any role that they've given to him thus far, he's excelled at. So we'll see how that goes. Willie Bowen says Kevin Von Erich is his favorite Von Erich. He was a wrestling talent. I mean, my favorite Von Erich might be Lacey, but that's for another reason. Oh, gosh, that's too much. Well, again, guys, thank you so much for being a part of this week's show. Dave Scooby points out no word on Tim Storm. Hey, maybe Tim Storm, because he doesn't have a match, might be in that broadcasting booth with Joe Galley. Sean Mega says, any rumor surprises for the pay-per-view? I mean, in terms of rumors, I haven't heard very many. I really seem to think that there are going to be some surprises. A lot of the contracts from the WWE are finally, the no-compete clauses are running out. And, I don't think you're going to see somebody like... I don't think you're going to see like Kenny Omega show up, for example. But I do believe that they're going to keep trying to find ways to encourage the fan base to come back. So that means if you bring in a surprise name, if you there's an unadvertised talent, that's going to encourage people to buy the next pay-per-view because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, that's kind of booking 101. You advertise a card that the fans will be happy enough with to pay for, but then you put in a few surprises that they'll make them want to buy the next one. And of course, they're going to be doing TV shortly after this pay-per-view. They might even start taping the TV right after the pay-per-view. The ring will already be set up. Might as well get some extra matches in. And there's no word on if they're going to do any additional content outside of NWA Power. We haven't heard anything about 10 Pounds of Gold. We haven't heard anything about NWA Shockwave. But given this, that they have this opportunity to tape a couple of days of TV that they can stretch out for months at a time, I mean... Again, we don't know with how COVID-19 is, how much longer it's going to be around, how much it's going to affect our everyday life, when the next shutdown could happen. So if the NWA were smart, which I know there's a lot of smart guys there, if it were me, not only would I be taping for Power, but I would be taping in case we can't get back to Power. And I would also take time to be taping content for YouTube as well. But that's just me. 212,000 people are subscribed to the NWA YouTube channel, and so far they've created 2 videos. Or maybe is it just one? Maybe it's just one. Let's see. Matt Vermillion says, he just seemed disinterested to me, lethargic. He had the skills to beat Rick constantly. Yeah, I think we're talking about Kerry again. And again, there was a lot of demons we didn't know about at the time that we didn't find out till later in life. Matt Vermillion says AOP. I mean, we're talking about a wrestling promotion that has tag team titles, and there's no division. So an influx of tag teams would be great. And we've talked about it before, the Koloff Dynasty. I think we need them back. The Luke Hawk and his son PJ, we need them back. I think as much as they could grow their tag team, as much as they can grow their roster, they should be doing that. And when there's guys who aren't too far away can make that short trip, it's going to add a lot more to the show. Dave Scooby says, no crowd means more than 4-hour tapings. Do as many matches as you can. Exactly. Just burn the midnight oil. Literally, as long as you have a referee and a guy and a cameraman, record the matches. You can always put audio in it later. You can always do, dubbing, commentating later. Matt Vermillion, you're taking off. Thank you so much. We're going to end the show soon anyway. So, Matt, thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next week, hopefully. Woodland Goblin, he agrees with Scooby. And the Sons of Von Erichs. Yeah, absolutely. And Dodie wants... See, Luke and PJ Hawk, I think it was called Airy Hawk or Hawk Airy or something like that. Yeah, both of those guys were good. Luke Hawk is great. I love Luke Hawk. In fact... I'd be happy with him challenging Nick Aldus for the 10 pounds of gold. But if we can't have that, bring him back with his son. His son, although green in the ring, he looked pretty good. And I think that would add a lot to the tag team division. You guys want to keep going, or should we wrap it up? The first person that says we'll keep going. Come on, guys. I'm waiting for you to direct the show here. All right, I'm going to get a drink of water while you guys decide what you want to do. Sean Mega, you have a good one, man. We'll keep talking for a little bit longer, guys. 7 more days. Sean, when we talk in 1 week, man, I hope you're pumped up for the show, bro. I really do, because I think that we've all waited long enough that we deserve to have a quality product. And if we're paying for it, man, it's going to be good. I don't think they're going to let us down. I have a lot of faith, and maybe I shouldn't, but I have a lot of faith that Nick Aldus knows that this is his swan song. Not a swan song, but this is his legacy. This is his dynasty. He might not ever make it to the WWE. He might not ever go anywhere besides the NWA. So this is his opportunity to cement his legacy. And he is not the kind of guy who's going to not put out 100%. And I don't necessarily like Nick Aldus. Me and him are not close. But I don't believe that his ego would let the show be anything but above average. Willie, you want to talk about the history of pro wrestling? Okay, we could start back in 2004 at the Inoki Dojo when David Marquez, who had just gotten done helping to produce content for UPW, that's Ultimate Pro Wrestling in Southern California, that he had this opportunity to start helping to produce talent here locally through the Inoki Dojo, with the help of, the great Antonio Inoki. So, of course, he looked to the talents like Ricky Reyes and Rocky Romero and Bobby Quance and Samoa Joe and Bryan Danielson and, to a lesser extent, guys like Joey Ryan. And they started to produce wrestling matches in this little dojo. And the trio, the stars of the show, I also forgot TJ Perkins. The stars of this training would end up being Rocky Romero, TJ Perkins, and Ricky Reyes. In fact, they would send the three of them to work CMLL in the trios matches for the junior, I think the light heavyweight division that they were starting. And that light heavyweight division would be fruitful, where Rocky Romero would end up winning the CMLL Super Liga Championship. And that was a title that would actually become one of the first titles defended in the new NWA Pro that was kind of taking off. Now, they hadn't started television yet because they're still doing the Inoki Dojo stuff. Around that same time is when they'd bring the NWA British Commonwealth Championship, a title that hangs on my wall over here. And that title was actually Drew Onyx's championship. Now, Drew Onyx was a guy who was competing all over the Atlantic. I mean, both sides. He was wrestling in the UK. He was wrestling in Canada, in his home country of Quebec. He was wrestling at the anniversary shows. He was taking the title to Bermuda as the British Commonwealth Champion. I forgot the name of the belt already. And so they were bringing that title back and forth all around. And it was at the 57th anniversary show that Dave Marquez saw Drew Onyx win the title by defeating Fergal Devitt. Fergal Devitt would later become Finn Balor. Are you guys enjoying this? Well, anyways, honestly, I do have to get going. And that was a little bit of fun there, talking about the history of NWA Pro Wrestling. Dave Marquez is a good friend, and what he's done over the course of the last 15 years in Southern California has been nothing short but phenomenal. Created many, many stars, and it's been fun to watch the maturation process of a lot of talent who I used to watch at that Santa Monica Inoki Dojo go from these dojo, like those were the first socially distant shows because there was no audience. There was as many air conditioning units in the building as there were fans. And some of those guys have literally come on to become, WWE Universal Champion, WWE NXT Champion, WWE Tag Team Champion. Talents have gone from there to New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, now in AEW. I mean, I remember watching the Young Bucks wrestle in one of these Inoki dojos. It was Mr. Slick Nick and Mr. Instant Replay before they were, Nick and Matt Jackson. It's been very fun as a fan to watch the maturation process, and that's the thing about the United Wrestling Network and the NWA Pro Wrestling as it became Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Dave Marquez isn't done. He's still scouting out some of the best talent, and you see these talents. Look, Jordan Clearwater wouldn't be in the NWA had it not been for his stop in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Slice Boogie would not be in the NWA, again, if he wasn't in the United Wrestling Network Primetime Live. these talents are getting these opportunities because of where they're being showcased. Zicky Dice never got his opportunity to be in the NWA had it not been for his time in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. And we go back further than that, we could talk about guys like Adam Pearce. I mean, Adam Pearce obviously was a hell of a talent, but if he wasn't the star of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, he never would have an opportunity to become NWA World Champion. Had he never become an NWA World Champion, he might not have ever gotten his opportunities with Ring of Honor, and of course, which led to his opportunities with the WWE. It's all kind of connected. And again, we could talk about, Rocky Romero, who's been tied to New Japan Pro Wrestling for well over a decade. And again, Finn Balor, Carl the Machine Gun Anderson, Aaron Spears. There's so much. Well, Willie, Jim Crockett, I mean, again, we could talk about him too. Jim Crockett took that NWA promotion, one of the top NWA promotions in the early 80s, and made it one of the most dominant wrestling promotions ever. And I mean, when he came through, he started buying up bought up the Mid-Atlantic, bought up Georgia, bought up Florida, bought up the Mid-South, and he had what was a really good circuit. Unfortunately, he overspent. And, I'm sure it didn't hurt that he had these private jets that were flying Ric Flair everywhere. I mean, they were making a ton of money, but spending it as quickly as they made it. And, I mean, he even came back in 95 as part of the NWA in Dallas. In 94, they had created the first wrestling show that was meant to be streamed on YouTube. Or not YouTube, excuse me, but streamed on an internet media platform, which just didn't exist at the time. But guys, that's a lot longer than I had planned to go, and I got to get going. So again, thank you all for checking out this podcast. Again, you can support us each and every week by watching us every Tuesday. We will be back next Tuesday, just ahead of NWA Power here on YouTube and on Twitch. You could subscribe, like, and follow. That's always great. We also do an audio podcast. You could search for At the Alliance Blog, and again, that's on Amazon, Apple, Spotify. Just type in the Alliance Blog and you can find us on your favorite podcast device. Lastly, you can follow us on all social medias at the Alliance Blog. Oh, one more thing, and then the merchandise, because we have these really cool shirts that you can pick up again at our merch store on Streamlabs. So please do that if you can, if you'd like to support, and if not, just by sharing the content. That's really as much gratitude as I can show. That's not right. I'm very grateful for you sharing the podcast and all that good stuff. So we're going to wrap it up. Went a little bit extra today. But again, I appreciate you guys checking us out every Tuesday. And next week, we're going to have the power. So until next week, my friends, remember, you can, in the infamous words of Bruce Lee, absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, and make what is essentially yours. Good night now.